What's up, everybody? Welcome to a little explanation of your CPS element project. In this CPS element project, what you are doing is you are researching one of the 118 elements from the periodic table. Each student, whether they're in Mr. Orr or my Mr. Guadagna's class, is receiving their own element, and there's a handful of things that you need to search for and look up to try to make up a presentation about the element. What you are doing is you are making a 6-slide presentation, and then there's a 7th slide just for your reference page. I recommend using Google Slides, but if you're more comfortable using PowerPoint, feel free to use that. Either one will work, or if you know of another presentation making piece of software that you wish to use, as long as you get the information on there, you are fine. This is due on Thursday, June 4th if you are in Mr. Orr's class, or Friday, June 5th if you are in Mr. Guadagna's class. But don't save it to the last day, because this will take a little bit of time. I'll go through a nice little timeline, and I believe you got that little timeline on your update. Hopefully, to kind of see when you should maybe try to get certain things done by. And if you kind of pay attention to that and do that, it should make it relatively easy to get it done in time, and also spread the workload out so you're not just like killing yourself. So you are going to use the internet and other resources. I would say your notes or textbook would be those best other resources besides things that you can find on the internet. And you definitely should be Googling stuff and researching stuff via the internet. That is kind of important. On the first slide, you are kind of doing like background knowledge of the element. You want the symbol, the name, the atomic number, the atomic mass to 2 decimal places, whether it's a solid, liquid, or gas at standard conditions. So that's normally what elements are listed as, of whether when they're solids, liquids, or gases. All right, under standard conditions, something like oxygen's a gas, carbon's a solid, mercury, the metal, is a liquid. All right, there's only 2 elements that are liquid under standard conditions. Most of them are solids, and then there's a handful that are gases. You need to label whether it's a metal, non-metal, or metalloid, and then give the oxidation numbers or common charges. Now, I've had a couple questions already about, do I need every possible oxidation number or just the most common? You guys are fine with just the most common. This is kind of a entry level introductory project to kind of just get to know an element really well, and some of the things that you might be able to find out about elements. So in case you ever need to find out any of this information about other elements in the future, you've kind of done it once. That's slide 1, just like a general idea of what is going on with the element. Slide 2 is kind of your history of the element. Who discovered your element, all right? If you can find that. If it was something discovered way back in antiquity, hundreds of years or 1,000 years or so before the Roman Empire or anything, that might be a little harder. But who discovered it, when it was discovered, by when it was discovered, be as specific as you can find. If you can't find an exact day and month, hopefully you can find at least a year. If it is something that we discovered before we started recording history, you should be able to find that somewhere as well. All right, where it was discovered. All right, a lot of the elements that you guys have been assigned are newer elements. So they've been discovered over the last 500 years. So we have a pretty good idea of where they were discovered, and then a little bit of a description on how they were discovered should be the main part of this slide. All right. Now, one of the things I'm going to do for this is I'm going to copy and paste this into Google and see if you copied and pasted it from somewhere. And if you copied and pasted it from somewhere, you're going to lose a lot of points from this slide. So make sure you are putting this in your own words, writing your own summary of how it was discovered. That's why it says the word original description right there. The third slide is a slide that is showing all the physical properties. All right, all of the properties below should be and must be included, including melting point, boiling point, putting a picture of the pure element up there, density, common isotopes with their percent abundances, and then specific heat, heat of vaporization, heat of fusion. All right, this is one of those things where the best place to find it is on Google. And so just make sure you are copying and pasting full links of whatever websites you are using to your resources page, which I will talk more about later. Keep in mind a lot of these should have units, so make sure you write down those units as well. And you should be able to find all of these values for each element. If you do end up having trouble finding one, please reach out to Mr. Orr or Mr. Guadagna to let them know, and they will be happy to help you look into it a little bit and help you figure out exactly what it is, or maybe even give you a little bit of leeway in case something might not be found. But you should be able to find all of these. All right, the first 3 slides, hopefully you can get those done by the end of Memorial Day. That's Monday, May 25th. All right, it is 3 slides, so it's like half the project, but slide 1 is really easy. Slide 2 is not that much harder, and slide 3 is not that much harder. These slides should be the easiest ones to kind of find all the information for at first. All right, so the recommendation is slides 1 to 3 by May 25th. Slide 4 is probably the slide that's going to take you the most amount of time. And the reason it's going to take you the most amount of time is because you are making a heating curve. Keep in mind, a heating curve has temperature on one axis, energy on the other. It looks like this. All right. And you are heating your element from 10 degrees Celsius up to 20 degrees Celsius above its boiling point. So those of you who have solids, you're going to have to you're going to see it melt, and then you'll see the liquid heat up, and then you'll see it boil, and then it'll go up 20 degrees above its boiling point. You need to make sure that the starting temperature, melting point, boiling point, and final temperature are all on the y-axis. And then you're going to use the 3 energy calculations we talked about a little bit earlier in this distance learning environment, the Q equals MSHAT, the Q equals MHFUS, and the Q equals MHVAP, to calculate all the energy needed for this 50-gram sample to undergo the changes that your graph shows. Like I said, that will probably take the longest amount of time. Slide 5 is chemical properties. All right, so you're trying to look for 3 chemical properties of your element. All right, you could probably just search your element and the phrase chemical properties, and you should be able to find 3 of them relatively easy. Now, you can go beyond 3, but I'm looking for a minimum of 3, or Mr. Orr and I are looking for a minimum of 3. And then what you were going to do is give the chemical formula and name for 5 compounds that you can find your element in. So if you had oxygen, you could use carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide and water as 3 of the 5 compounds. All right. None of you have oxygen, but then it's just an example. So you want 3 chemical properties, 5 compounds, and then 2 balanced equations that somehow your element is involved in. It does not have to be involved in it as a pure element. Your element can be part of a compound in these equations. Just your element has to appear in the chemical equation. Slides 4 and 5, they should be done by the end of the month. So we got slides 4 and 5 by May 31st, which is a Sunday. All right, now you don't have to submit these slides as you finish them. All right, I guess you can if you want. If you want your teacher to look at them, you can submit them. And in the comment box, ask if we can take a quick look over them, and we will try to. But what you are trying to do is get slides 1 through 3 done by May 25th, slides 4 and 5 done by May 31st. And that would leave you that whole last week of classes to work on slides 6 and 7. Slide 6, uses and fun facts. 3 ways your element is used. Any 3 ways you can find out that your element is used. The more relevant and the more modern the information for how your element is used, the better. But, maybe your element hasn't been used too much in the last 50 or 60 or 100 years. So, just do what you can, but 3 ways your element can be used, even if it's a compound of your element. Your element still gets used in those compounds. So if you had sodium, one of the ways sodium gets used is, in table salt to help flavor foods. Yeah, it's not pure sodium, but your element is used in sodium chloride or table salt that, that would count. And then finally, 3 fun facts. Now, a fun fact is pretty much any fact that has not been listed before. It does not have to make you think it's actually fun. You might think all of this is not fun. In fact, I'm pretty sure there's a good number of you that won't find any of this fun because it's schoolwork and it's on elements and you can't see these things and they're really tiny. And, most people don't like thinking about them. But I'm a huge dork. I am a science teacher, and I love chemistry. So I find most of the facts about this stuff fun. And you know what? Mr. Orr, he's a pretty big dork as well. So we find more of these facts fun than you are. Just 3 facts. 3 facts about your element that have not been listed earlier. And then slide 7 is a resources slide. Just keep a running list of all your websites. All right, when you go and you use a website, just copy and paste it. All right, we are looking for a certain number of resources. I believe that number is 3 websites plus your book as the resources that you should be using, and that's just the last slide. So this one you kind of fill out as you go along. And again, all of this is due on your last day of CPS class. So that's either June 4th for Mr. Orr's class, which is a Thursday, or June 5th for Mr. Guadagna's class, which is a Friday. You have a copy of the rubric at the end of the PDF. This PDF can be found in the folder at the end of your CPS class page. And the rubric is in there. You can see it. There's a rubric that we're going to use on Schoology linked to the assignment, so you can see the rubric there as well. And you can kind of tell if you are going to get excellent points, good points, satisfactory points, or need improvement points. All right, overall, this is worth 100 points. There's over 800 points, I believe, for the 4th marking period. So this is only going to really hurt your average if you get below a 50 or you get a 0 and don't do it. But if you're putting out a halfway decent effort, you're probably going to be in that 85 to 100 range, which is, not going to significantly cause a good average to go down or up by more than a point or so. Of course, the lower your average, if you're in the 80s or 70s or failing, you could see a big jump by getting a good grade on this. And the other thing, if you are, in the 50s or 60s or 70s, all right, and I know there's a handful of you guys out there that are, you're there because of work that never got turned in. Go in. Mr. Orr and I are accepting all late work. All right? Yeah, the older it is, the bigger the penalty, but the zeros are what's killing your average. It shouldn't be that bad to get yourself above that passing bar in the fourth marking period. And keep in mind, the fourth marking period is half of your semester grade because there's no final exam. So because of that, the fourth marking period is worth more than it normally would be. I am also, and Mr. Orr as well, we are also going to have a Zoom check-in during the week of May 25th. All right, that is Memorial Day week. That is next week from right now. I believe it is May 19th when I am recording this. I can't speak for Mr. Orr when he will be available for that, but I'm sure he will post it in the update section. I know I will be online and available during my CPS class, both on the Tuesday and Friday that week. No, not the Tuesday. The Wednesday and Friday that week, because we have the Monday off from Memorial Day. So both class days that week, I will be available. I'll be available all 4 school days that week during the flex time on Zoom. I'll post all the information to an update. And you can always just try and see if I'm there at other times, because I have chem classes that I'm doing Zoom check-ins with as well. And I'm not going to take off if you pop in during one of my other classes. I'm just glad to see you and everything. And then, I'm assigning that like 25 points, which just means if you check in, you get the full points. It is the easiest grade ever in the history of this class. And that's just to make sure you get there. It'd be good for me to see you guys, just be able to answer any questions, kind of see how you're doing. Hopefully by the time I talk to you, you're done with slides 1, 2, and 3. And then on the last day of classes for my class, we will have a Zoom for part of it. It will not be super long unless you guys want it to go super long. But I just kind of want to try to get the class together one more time, kind of see everybody, and send us off to summer in a relatively fun, well, not fun, but just like, I don't know, just have some kind of closure, because this year has been totally crazy. All right. The other thing that is on the last page of the file are your elements. You just pick the one that's next to your name. Every student in each class has a different element. So, there's a little bit of individuality on there. Please do not trade your elements. There's no reason that any of these elements should offend you. But if for some reason you are highly offended by your element, get a hold of Mr. Orr or myself, and we'll see if there's an actual good reason for you to be afraid or frightened by, or have a deep disdain, burning hatred of 10,000 suns feeling for that element. You'll need to make an amazing case to get us to change your element. But, stranger things have happened. So, other than that, do the Zoom check-in next week, and let's finish strong and get this done.